Alright, so today what we're going to be creating is a Pokeball that is see-through. So the first thing that you need is you need to have your Pokeball resources, and you can find that in the Turn-In folder. And the first thing that we're going to open is the bubble, and you can find any bubble image online, but for this tutorial you can just open up the demo. So I have my bubble image, and then I need to go find my water image. Go ahead and open that also in Photoshop. Now, so I have my water and I have my bubble. So I need to put my water onto my bubble image. So Control A, Control C, and then Control V. And I'm going to take the Move tool and move it down about a third of the way. So what we're going to be doing is warping the water into the bubble. So in order to do that, we're going to hit Control T, which is to transform. And then what's different is we're going to right click and hit warp. And what warp does, it warps the tool and the water the way you want it. So go ahead and bring those corners in, and you want them to be kind of on the edge of that bubble. And take a moment to just mold your bubble all the way around, and you want it to hit the edge. So I'm almost done warping my bubble. I'm just going to do some fine tuning, but you don't want your water to go over your bubble. I turned down the opacity to about 68% just so I could see the inside and outside of my bubble compared to the water. So this looks pretty good. Once you are done warping your bubble, all you have to do is hit the check mark. And what we're going to do is change the blending mode to soft light, just so it blends in a lot better. Now we're going to open up the Pokeball. And it can be really any kind of Pokeball, but this is the demo one. And what you're going to do is you're going to cut out this black part and the center part, however which way you choose, and we're going to put it over into the other side of your bubble. So I'm just going to use the quick selection. And really you can use any kind of tool. And you might notice that your edges are kind of rough, so you can always right click and feather your image. You can feather it about 1 to 5 pixels. I'm going to try out 1 just to see what it looks like. And it's feathered. And you can go ahead and just drag your image over to your Pokeball. And Control T to resize. Hold Shift. And place your image. You want to leave a little bit on the left and right side of your bubble, just because we're going to be doing something where we hug each side later. And go ahead and hit check mark when you're done. If you don't like the way that your black slimes turned out, try a different either polygonal lasso or magnetic lasso, or try feathering it once again. So now that you have your strip on your bubble, what we're going to do is we're going to take the quick selection tool, and we're going to select this white part and the gray part. And what we're going to do is we're basically going to duplicate the layer. So in order to duplicate the layer, what you can do is you can just hit Control J, and it will duplicate that spot. If you want to hit layer 3 and then layer 4, you'll see that it gets selected. Then what you want to do is you want to make sure you're on layer 3, and if you don't still have that selection selected, you can select it again using your selection tool. You're going to hit delete, and to make sure that bottom part's deleted, all you have to do is click layer 4 to make sure that layer 4 is just the circle, layer 3 is just the black part. And make sure you're on layer 4, and we're going to change the blending mode to hard light, just because we want that a little more see-through. And then go ahead and hit Control D to deselect. Alright, so what we're going to do right now is we're going to zoom in on each side of that bubble. I'm going to start off with the right hand side, And you're going to go to the clone stamp tool. And how this works is you sample a spot really, really close to the edge of that bubble by holding Alt, and you'll see a target appear, clicking once with your mouse, let go of everything, and this part where you see the gap and the black Pokeball line, you want to click on that and make sure you're on the correct layer. So make sure that you are on layer, the background layer here. So again, make sure you're on the background layer. We sampled that spot, and what you're going to do is you're going to just take that and carve in just a little bit. Now, if yours isn't working, it's probably because your opacity is down low or your mode is not on normal. So continue to sample and just bring that in a little bit. You might have to sample different parts of the bubble to make it look a little more natural, but all we're doing here is carving in just a little bit so that the line hugs, and you can also do that with the left side as well. You might have noticed that some of the water's showing, so you can always go to layer 1 or your water layer and also hug that in as well. If for some reason your water isn't deleting for whatever reason, you can always take the eraser tool, make it super tiny, and erase part of that water layer. But you have to be on the water layer in order to erase the water. So I'm going to go to the right side and do the same thing. Okay. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to zoom out, and we're going to be on our water layer, so make sure your water layer is clicked. And what we need to do is we need to erase the water on the top. So anything above this black line we need to erase. So make sure you're on your eraser tool and erase all of the water. Now, you might have noticed that mine's erasing very lightly. It's because my opacity is set down to about 46%. So I'm going to turn that up and erase everything. If you want a softer erase line, you can turn your opacity down. If you want a harder one, you can turn it up. And I'm going to erase what's in here as well. Okay. I added a little more water in between just to make it look a little more natural. And what we're going to do is we're going to add a splash inside of our Pokeball. So we're going to go into the Pokeball resources and click on the water brushes. And you're going to have to go in and find your brushes. I like to go to Window, Brush, and just scroll down to find your brushes. Sometimes it might take a while for your brushes to load. So I'm going to look for water brush number 625. There it is. I'm going to change my color to like a light blue. And I'm going to size my brush using the bracket keys to make the splash my own. So I'm going to make that a little bit bigger. And you can click on it once. And if it doesn't show up, what you need to do is make sure you're on the right layer. Oh, I am not clicked on the paintbrush. So make sure you're on the paintbrush. You're looking for 625. You're going to size it with your bracket keys. And make that a little bit smaller. You're going to click it once. You'll see the splash appear. You want it a little bit darker, so go again until you get the effect that you want. Okay. You can also use the warp tool by hitting Control-T and right-clicking and going to warp your water if you want it to look a little more natural. There we go, and hit OK if you're done. We want our water to blend in just a little bit better, so on my brush that I added that onto, I can change my mode from normal to screen. And right now I'm on the incorrect layer, so I'm going to turn that back to soft light. And what I noticed that I did wrong is that I accidentally didn't put a new layer on there. So I'm going to go to Edit Step Backward till I get the correct step. And this is a common mistake that most people make. So I'm going to make my new layer. I'm going to put my brush back on again, once, twice, and then now I can change it from normal to screen. And that's a common mistake that people make. And now it looks a lot more natural. So what I'm going to do now, here's the fun part, is I'm going to actually put the Pokemon into my ball. So if you're using a PNG image, it's already cut out for you. So I'm going to pick this one here. And you guys are going to pick your own Pokemon. I'm going to pick this one here. And I'm going to pick Magikarp. All right. So I have 3 different fish. You want to keep it an odd number. If it's a PNG image, all you have to do is take the Move tool, move it over and drag, and drop it. And usually it will pop up. If it doesn't for whatever reason, you can always do Control A, Control C, Control V. So just in case if it's not working, Control A, Control C, Control V, and now it pops up. I'm going to resize this to the way I want. And now we're just making things look good. You want them to be realistic. If you need to go and warp the Pokemon for whatever reason, you can. But the biggest thing is that if you are putting a fish in here, you need to turn down the opacity to about 75% so that it appears as if it were in the Pokeball. So take some time to put your Pokemon in there and make it look natural. If you have an image where you have a white background, all you have to do is select the Magic Wand tool, hit the white part, hit delete, and because mine's on a background layer, you might have to unlock your layer and then hit delete so that you have the waffle background and then move your stuff. So take a moment to move all your Pokemon and resize them the way you want. So now I have all my Pokemon into the ball and everything is down to a opacity of about 75% to make sure it looks natural. I'm going to do some finishing touches now on my image. So the first thing I want to do is add a sun spot. So I'm going to go into my brushes, double click on your sun brushes, and I'm looking for number 2490. So I'm going to click that, and I want to make sure that it's selected on white because I want my sun spot to be white, and make it big enough to where you like it, and then click once in the upper left hand corner. What we're going to do here is we're going to go up to Filter, Blur, and Gouache Blur. And we're going to make this blur about 27. And that's just a matter of preference. You can hit Preview to see what you like more. If for some reason, like you see, my Magikarp is kind of blurry, that just means that I didn't put it on a new layer. So you can always go Edit, Step Backward, make a new layer, put your sunspot on, go to Filter, Blur, Gouache Blur, and again you want it about 27. Okay. We're also going to add a smaller one, so again, new layer. We're going to make this a lot smaller. I'm going to put my little sunspot here, and then the same steps, Filter, Blur, Gouache Blur. And this time we're only going to make the blur about 10 and then hit OK. One of the last steps you're going to do is you're going to create a new layer, so you have a total of 11 layers. You're going to make sure you hit the gradient tool, double click, and you're going to create a gradient with the following numbers. So on the left side you're going to double click it, and it's going to be number 001 1E4C. Again, that's 001 E4C, which is a dark blue. Hit OK. And then on the right hand side, double click, and you want your number FF7C00.